future of work and the future of life. Hopefully it'll be interesting and entertaining. Why don't I have my panelists come on up, grab a microphone.
Where's the microphone? Yeah, give us one. Oh, see?
Any three chairs. Come on in. Free beer. I don't know. It's the best idea that I had. Caitlin, Gary, are you on? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Gary's
hear you.
here.
Good morning, Caitlin. Gary, are you there?
Yeah.
Awesome. Technology works. I think I had to start the call from my phone. The only thing I still do not have, gentlemen backstage, is the slide advance device, the clicker. Anybody here know what a clicker is?
Making sure.
You guys have it in your pockets?
No, we're checking to make sure we're not sitting on it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, I make it at 12:01. We have a quorum. Thank you guys for joining us very much. This is a very complicated setup because we actually have the CIO of Zoom, Gary Sorrentino. Give us a wave for a second. Gary is joining us from, you're in Austin, right? Or somewhere else in Texas?
I'm in Austin today and with you tomorrow in Dallas.
And he'll be here with us tomorrow. And Caitlin is joining us from California.
Hello.
And this was a little complicated to put together at the last minute, so the crew here is doing an awesome job. And I just need them to put the slides up on the screen behind me, and we can get started. Well, while we're waiting, let me have my guests introduce themselves. So just very briefly so you know who is here. I already introduced Gary, who's joining us from Zoom, and Caitlin, who's joining us from Cisco. And I'll give you more opportunities to describe yourself later, but just give us your name and where you're from, starting with you, Sam.
Sure. I'm Sam Kennedy. I run the product marketing team at Crestron.
I'm Jay McCardle. I run product for HP Poly for video.
Hi, I'm Tim Hernquist. I run product for Jabra.
So we have all of the IMCCA sponsors here representing all the organizations that are with us. We're talking about the future of work here, which is just a small, complicated little thing that everybody's trying to figure out. Before I get started, do let me mention the IMCCA. The IMCCA is short for Interactive Multimedia and Collaborative Communications Alliance. It's very complicated, that's why we call it IMCCA. They're right over there. You should go visit. End user membership is free. All of these organizations and many others are members. There's a Commercial Integrator magazine sitting outside right now that I'll actually refer to that's got articles in it. imcca.org is the website. You should definitely find out more about it and join us. So these are our panelists, as we talked about, and since I've already introduced them briefly and I see that the video is working, we'll get into the conversation. So how many of you work from home now? Did you do it before? I've been doing it for nearly 2 decades at this point, and it was always bad. There's no other way to say it. It was, the companies were angry about it. I don't know if you remember Patrick Pichette at Google, if you remember the folks at Yahoo, they were all trying to bring people back to the office. It was tolerated, but it was considered bad. And then we all know what happened. The pandemic happened, and the use of these technologies went up like a hockey stick. It was just insane. What it did is it forced us to go through many years of digital transformation much more rapidly than we had planned on doing it. And what we have right now is the understanding, very simple, a lot of catchphrases in this presentation, and I'm going very quickly so our panelists can have a chat. Work is not a place. You don't go to work anymore. Work is what you do. And work now lives in the cloud. If we were worried about cloud adoption before, cloud adoption now is just, it's incredible, it's amazing. The way we work, things have changed. So if you get invited to a meeting, I work all the time, I get invited to meetings, you guys get invited to meetings all the time. It's no longer a room. We're not looking to go to a meeting. The meeting is in the cloud. If we're at home, we take it from home. If we're at a trade show, we sit down at a quiet spot and we take it with headsets. The meetings have moved from the rooms to the cloud. Documents You know, you used to work on documents on your Mac or your PC. For the most part now, I'm not working on documents on the PC. I'm now working on shared documents in an application, in a Teams app or a WebEx app or whatever you're doing, so that everybody can work on it at the same time. There's no more version control. I used to be a nutcase about version control. This is version 1A and 1B and 1C and 1.1 and 1.3 and now it's version. We don't do that anymore because we're all working on the same document. You don't have to save it under new names. Everybody's together with a team. What we've come to understand, and I have the pleasure of speaking to hundreds of end users and integrators and customers throughout the industry over the year, what we've learned is we're now in a hybrid working world. 95% of the customers that I speak with at conferences like this and other ones are all telling me, yep, we're embracing hybrid working, we're doing hybrid working, we're going for it. The problem is, there is no definition for hybrid working. No two companies are doing it the same way. It's kind of like the old, if you've ever heard of the old parable of the blind men and the elephant, where you know, 3 or 4 blind men go up to describe an elephant, and they're each touching a different part, so they describe it in different ways. The best way to think about it is the future of work is a work in progress. We're trying to figure out what's the right thing. I know that formulas don't work. There are a lot of companies that have said you must come back into the office 3 days a week, and that's kind of failing. Just as, you know, donuts are failing and, you know, Taco Tuesdays and anything, it's just not, you know, you can't coerce people back into an office. And honestly, that 3-year proposed return to the office, we're all returning to the office we've been talking about, you know, first it's going to be October, then it's January, then it's March. No one is returning to the office. The office as it existed before is obsolete. People can force people back to that office, but it's not going to last very long. You have to change the office in order to meet this future of work, in order to get people to come back. These are some of the changes, very briefly. Offices, instead of being designed for density and packing people into private areas, we're now talking about building offices with, you know, hoteling cubes and more open spaces and teamwork locations and a lot of soft seating. So the easiest way to think about how this has changed is this phrase, which I like, which I can't take credit for, I stole it, but home is the new office. The office is the new offsite. It's where we go to collaborate and to have camaraderie. And if, you know, there's a couple of articles out on some of the business publications last week talking about, oh, we're at a tipping point and everything's back and there's no issue with it. It's not true. This is an article that ran on Saturday on Bloomberg talking about nearly, you know, $500, $600 billion of empty offices, you know, in the area where these things have not been repurposed and not been used. I'll share this deck with anybody who wants it, by the way. Just let me know. It's very easy. So again, the highlights. How are things changing? The new enterprise offices, they're going to be less of them. They're going to have smaller footprints. They're going to be redesigned purposeful so that they support these group meetings and group collaboration. And the technology that we're looking at here that we're selling for the office and for homes, if it's older than 3 years old, it's obsolete. The AI technology and other things that are coming out are definitely making changes. One of the things we have to do is create parity between the remote office experience and the home office experience with the cloud, with digital workflows, with AI. We have to make it so that wherever you join from, you get that same experience. And if we think about it, and this is what should be of interest to the integrators here, if we understand, if we admit that every meeting going forward is going to have at least one remote participant. Heck, our stage show here, you know, we've got almost half of our participants are coming in on video. That means that tens of thousands of home offices are going to need home setups, and it requires some level of standardization so we can scale it. That's a lot of money and a big opportunity for this audience. How do we handle that home office of the future? The most important thing is there has to be a dedicated space to go to. It can't be, you know, from a bedroom or from a kitchen table. We've got to create these workstations that people can go to and feel like they're at work. And other things, standardized equipment so that the layout is something that you can do 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 times. It has to be monitorable by the enterprise, same as the on-campus equipment is monitorable. We've got to be able to build this out. Like I said, really big opportunity. And you have to consider the home office is really just like any other enterprise system. For the small and medium business, for the large enterprise, they've got to be able to get the same kind of support. They've got to be able to get the same kind of quality. You know, if you go out and buy a $20 camera on Amazon and stick it in somebody's home office, the $500,000 boardroom is going to have the quality of the $20 camera when it calls into it. There's got to be an upscale there, and there's a lot of opportunity. So I've kind of already introduced my panel. Let me go through them one more time. Let's put the Zoom guests back up on the screen, and let me have everybody tell us. We've got their names, we know where they work, but let's have everybody give us a chance of what you do for your organization, and what your organization is doing. You know, if you're here at the show floor, tell us about it for a second. So we'll go back in the other direction. Tim, why don't you start?
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm a head of product and business management for Jabra in North America. And my job is really to choose the right products for our North American customers. We look after a lot of large enterprise customers, and of course, always across the channel. And what we focus on in this show, especially at the IMCCA booth over there, is a homework setup and personal video, and how you come across as a human in front of your desk at home. But also we have a booth where we're showing all of our intelligent video systems and all of the collaboration headsets that we bring to people who do hybrid work.
Thank you, Tim. Jay.
Yep, so Jay McCardle. So I run product for the video division of HP Poly, so all webcams, all conferencing technologies, globally, hardware, software. I manage that product roadmap and help make those decisions on what we produce, how do we have the equitable meeting experience. We're right over by Jabra in the work area, so come over, visit us over there, get a sticker from us. We're going to be doing a giveaway as we do that. But yeah, I've been in the industry. I've been a Resi installer. I started a business doing home theater installs and high end. This is probably my 15th CEDIA. CEDIA certified installer from way back in the day, so I understand it. But yeah, so I've been with Poly for about a year and a half and run our overall strategy for video.
Thank you, Sam.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Sam Kennedy. I run the commercial product marketing team for Crestron. I also run our experience centers, technical marketing, things like that. And I think Crestron comes to the table a little different in that the majority of our revenue comes from commercial products, so conference rooms, control, Teams rooms, Zoom rooms, but also a large part of our revenue comes from residential. So I'm sure most of you have seen our booth. We're very focused on high-end home automation with shades and speakers and audio devices. And so I think we're very well positioned in the market of bringing, with our view of collaboration in the office and in the enterprise as well as in the home. So I think it's a great discussion for us to have.
Thank you, Sam. Caitlin, you still there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm still here.
So tell everybody.
I'm Caitlin Orsini. I'm an engineering director here at Cisco, building hardware devices for our hybrid working world, as you said before. Cisco is pretty unique in that we have both the hardware and the platform and all the services. So we are looking at it from a very, top level. How do we engage and make everyone productive, not just on a meeting or video, but outside of those calls, for example. And then, of course, as you said, in terms of equity, I'm here in my home office, and how do I show up in a big boardroom? So we have devices in all those locations, and we're continuing to work on, technologies to bring those experiences together.
Thank you, Caitlin. Gary, you're the last.
So we're a little different. As you know, we're a software company, and so at the end of the day, we're here to support all of our hardware partners that are there. Zoom is right now, so I'm the global CIO for Zoom, and the best part about my job is actually being able to meet our customers all over the world and trying to figure out what do they need next. How are we going to invest in the right features and functionalities that they need to have those equitable meetings that we're going to have a conversation? How do we have parity? How do we present, like Caitlin said, I'm in a hotel room, right? I should be able to work effectively from anywhere. And I should be able to be participative, and hopefully everybody can see me and hear me correctly. So really honored to be on your panel today, and looking forward to see everybody in real life tomorrow, of course.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, everybody. And just a quick show of hands or wave. You guys can hear all the panelists, okay? And you can hear okay. So this is another good example of the fact that what we do is enable this. It doesn't matter where people are. And this is really going to start touching residential. It's going to start touching hospitality. It touches healthcare. That's a lot of things. So my first question to all the panelists, you can go in whatever order you want. So just speak up, and I don't mind if you shout over each other. That's a good thing. My first question is, this has been the wackiest 3 years of my life and of our industry's life. How much of what we're doing now in terms of remote working, of hybrid working, of working from anywhere, how much of this do you think is going to stick 5 years, 10 years down the road? Have we defined the new normal, or is this just an anomaly?
I'll jump in. I don't think that we're in an end state by any stretch of the imagination. I think that we're in progress. We're trying to figure out what the end state's going to look like. But I can definitively say we're not going to go back to what we were before, right? So we have fundamentally changed. It's not going to go back to pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, my opinion. And we're still in a transitionary period. We haven't hit the new normal yet.
I'll jump in next. The only thing I would say differently, and sorry, is that there is no end state. We're going to constantly be in a state of figuring out what is the new next normal, and I think it's going to continue to evolve very, very far into the future. We need to think about what we're designing today from a more flexibility standpoint. I think that we're only at the beginning. The employee opinion is very important right now. They're willing to quit their jobs in order to be more productive. And so I think what we need to do is think about how are we designing for the future and what is 5 years going to look like. And the best way to gauge that is to speak to the people who are using it. We cannot go back to the technology of build it and they will use it. Now it has to be, what do they want? My employees are my partners now. My customers are my partners now in designing the platform for how we're going to interact going forward. So the only thing I would change, sorry for that, is that I don't think there is an end state. I do think that the past is gone, as Mark said, and it's never coming back. And we just need to memorialize that somewhere, that the past is gone, it's never coming back. The future is very, very much unknown, and listen to your partners, right? Because they're going to tell you how they want to interact with you in the future.
Good.
It might not be up to us to decide that. Maybe I think what certainly has happened to me as I think about this over the last 3 years is that it's the people that are in control, and everyone is a person. So if you're thinking about whether your boss, your CEO is going to decide everyone needs to come back in, or you're at home saying I'm never going to go back in, I think it's those two people that are deciding it. And it's up to us as an industry to make sure they've got the things that they need to pull off whatever they're trying to do. A lot of the times we talked about earlier, Wi-Fi, home is where the Wi-Fi is, or the office is where the Wi-Fi is. They could be interchangeable. But it's up to us to continue to evolve what people are needing in their work lives.
Yeah, I just think that, so I would agree with everything that's been said. I think the flexible is the key word that most organizations are looking to as we're looking at this hybrid 2.0 phase, or whatever you want to call what's happening next. We aren't going to go back to the way it was, but I think enabling your employees or your organization with as much flexibility as we start to figure out what are the next 12, 24, 36 months and beyond looks like. As Gary said, this is it, right? There is no going back. I think it's providing the users the much flexibility is going to be the ones who are going to win.
Yeah, and I think of it as an evolution, as you guys have already mentioned, but I also feel like we're sort of at the stage where the asteroid hit the Earth, and somehow, like this cataclysmic event, and it kind of wiped out the dinosaurs. And what I see is people adding things back to their work life and their home life that have value. And so I think what we're going to see, to everyone's point, is that employee, that individual can decide, is this valuable to me to be in the office to do these things, or do I have better value working remote today? And then the other thing I'm seeing is, there's a lot of cognitive science papers coming out around the effectiveness of remote working. So I think we're going to see even more of this idea of like, what do we need to do in the office, both from a personal stance, but also, I think there's research out there. For example, they were comparing that the idea generation is better in person, but the idea narrowing, or the idea selection, for example, can happen over remote and is equal. So I think we're going to see really detailed refinement of what activities we want to do where.
All really good points. Two quick housekeeping things from me. We're going to cover a lot of the points that were just talked about over on the Innovation Hub today, tomorrow, and even Saturday. I'm going to be here doing some of it about preventing burnout, designing offices. I'm doing this afternoon, a few others. So definitely come by and see that over there. And as you can see over my shoulder, I've got a nice list of questions to ask my panelists, but I would prefer strongly to throw out as many of them as possible. If you guys want to step up to the microphone and have any questions for us here, that would certainly be something that I would entertain if you have anything. So please don't be shy and ask. So while you're thinking about your better questions than mine, I'll ask my panelists, and Caitlin, maybe you can go first on this one since you went last the last time. How would you grade our industry's response to this pandemic? You know, if you look at what happened over the last 3 years, obviously healthcare professionals, first responders, the scientists who came up with vaccines, you know, these are the people that were our saviors. But if you take that as granted and you put it aside, you know, they should be having a parade for us. You know, the world didn't stop, businesses continue. How was the response? Have we innovated fast enough? Have we created new tools or new processes? I know we've all been very agile, but what do you think? Is it something we should be proud of, or do we need to do better?
Oh, I definitely think it's something to be proud of. And in particular, just like keeping everybody connected, but also productive and working, you know, how they want to, right? And I feel like in terms of the innovations and what we've seen is, I do feel like the software features that we have had have exploded, and a lot of trial and error, you know, like, can we have a cocktail hour over video, or do we need to do that in person? You know, can we do an exercise class remotely, or does that not work? So I think we definitely iterated very quickly on a lot of these software features, but what I think is gonna probably come up next, at least what I see, is that next generation of hardware devices. And I know, you know, obviously at Cisco we do a little bit of both, but I do think people are now figuring out what they need in their house or what they need in the office. It's new hardware. To enable those, you know, those best experiences.
Gary, I saw Zoom in the early days of the pandemic. You guys were changing things on the fly so quickly because the scale hadn't been experienced before. And when you hit that massive scale with everybody, you know, Zoom becoming a verb, there were a lot of things that got picked up that needed to be changed, and they were rapidly changed. I can't keep track of how many changes you guys made. You know, are you guys comfortable? Are you happy with the response that you've made to this crisis?
Oh, I'm definitely thinking that we're happy with the response that we made to this crisis. I think we could all have done better, but there was no playbook for this. Look, we've all come from technology organizations where you had a playbook for everything, a disaster recovery or whatever this was, and all that work that we did all those years got thrown out the first time we had a major global. I mean, nobody can plan for, let's send all the employees home and all the clients home. Let's do it globally. Oh, and by the way, it's tonight. Right? I mean, think about it. March 11th, right? We all got that proverbial email, go home. People went into the offices and grabbed whatever they could grab, right? The offices were vacant, right? They took chairs, they took printers that didn't even work at home, right? They took whatever they could grab. So I think we made it work. Okay, so everybody gets a B+ for making it work, right? Probably the B+, and I'm a little hard at the rating, is because we didn't have a plan. Companies, vendors, product sales, we didn't have a plan, right? We ran into supply chain issues, right? Couldn't buy a laptop for a long time, couldn't buy a camera and things like that. So we ran into some of those problems, so we can't really say we were an A. But the B+ is everybody came to the challenge, all of my colleagues here, we all came to the challenge. We kept businesses running, we kept people getting to doctors, we kept children learning, and we kept families connected. And those were the key things that we had to think about. So you got to give us a high score for that. But during it, we had to make very, very rapid changes. What we had to figure out was a lot of the products that we use that for remote, we call it telecommuting, or even worse words than that, weren't up to par for the experience of the people not being in the same room, because it was almost like a penalty. If you're at home, you're going to have a bad video conference, but you're going to work from home because you have childcare. So I think what happened was we had to rapidly evolve to figure out how do we bring all stuff back in. So I give us a B+ on that. I think there were a lot of things missing from the conference room, from the remote experience that probably should have been there in a lot of consumer technology. It's not in business technology, and so we're nurturing a new version of an employee called the Gen Z, who grew up on glass and who comes in and says, I have 15 apps that can do all of this on my phone for free, and I can't do it in my enterprise. So those are some of the new changes
Sure.
I'm seeing. So we need to rise to that challenge.
So let me ask my panelists on the stage that same question, but from more of a hardware perspective. You know, we've got residential and resi-commercial integrators here in the house. Are we innovating fast enough to give them the ability to scale out this tens of thousands of opportunity for working from home? Have we, come up to speed quickly enough? I assume all three of you still have things in the works that you're not going to talk about today, but are we meeting the challenge?
I don't think we're doing as good a job as we probably should. I think that there's a lot more as an industry that we could be enabling the users from home, because you started off that standardization is key, and that's a strategy that's really important inside of an organization. But no two kitchens are alike. No, right? And the people's homes, they want that customization. They want to show what they look like, right? They're proud of my kitchen looks unique to me. And so there's this balance that I think we need to strike as an industry to give the users the best technology, the best experience for their users, but also allowing them the ability to customize it in a way that's going to let their individuality show. So I think we've done an amazing job as an industry. I mean, for 25 years I've been doing this. I couldn't be prouder to be part of how quickly we responded. I mean, we've been talking about this. I think we as an industry were prepared on some level, maybe not as well as we could, but I think there's a lot of innovation still to come in our space, especially for this audience.
And you raise a very interesting point, and I want Tim and Jay to talk as well, but you raise a very interesting point in that this is almost the antithesis of the residential installation. The residential installations want customization. They want to see it in pink. They want to see it with 5 curtains instead of 3. They want to change it around, so everyone is a little different. But when you're talking about a work from home setup, you need to have remote support. And in order to have some level of remote support, it's got to be the same as it is in all the other houses.
It's that balance.
And how do we achieve that? And it's going to be a new muscle, whether you're talking about the commercial integrator going into resi or the resi integrator going in to do the home office. It's going to be a new muscle for everybody with a tremendous upside opportunity. I'm sorry, Jay, Tim, let me get you guys get a word in on this.
Yeah, I think that to everybody's point, right? I think we got a B+. We kept the lights on. We kept everything moving. However, we haven't filled the gaps in the expectations of the customers, because customers have developed new expectations over the past couple of years, and it takes time to develop product, right? So as Gary's saying, going out and talking to customers, right? I've had the privilege since November of going out traveling the world and meeting with all the customers and finding out fundamentally new expectations that we had no concept of prior to that, and then taking that back into product development to try to create the tools to allow people to solve the problems. But we didn't even know they were problems 12 months ago. So it takes time to develop the product. It takes time to get those things out, to develop the technology for these new problems that weren't there before.
Yeah, I would add, I totally agree with that. I would add that, I spend more time with my kids now, so that's a big win, and I'm able to be ambitious in my job. So that's another big win. So I can do both now that I couldn't do before. So that's good. I think some of the things that we think about in terms of standardization, I think a lot about is like video enabling every space, every place you have a camera in front of you, so you make sure you can collaborate with your friends. That's really hard because there's a million different spaces, right? So how do we create good technology that allows more video enablement? And that is something we think about a lot. And when that video is enabled, what is the result of that video? It needs to be as human as possible so that the interactions you're having with people in a remote place can be as good as possible, almost as if they were right there with you. Those are things we really need to work on still.
Yeah, it's what integrators do well, the automagic, right? I want an automagic experience. I want you to be able to walk in and it automatically just works the way that I would expect it to work from a production studio, and all of the complexity has to be hidden behind the scenes. Complexity's still there, it just has to be hidden. And so that's the goal that we're all going for.
Okay, so a last question for you guys to ponder and consider. Just about everybody here has booths at the show. Please visit them. They'll show you things. They may talk to you about secrets. I didn't want any NDA information, so don't give me any product roadmap information. But do a vision stretch for me. Do some Imagineering or some imagination. What are the kinds of things that we're going to be focusing on in the future? Gary, I'll go to you first on this one, because I know that one of the things that Zoom is working on is this idea of how do we get multiple tiles live from everybody in a room. That's possibly one of them. I know that we're starting to see some products come to the market that are like the old 3-screen telepresence again. What are the kinds of technologies, biometrics, facial, voice, translation? What are the things we can expect to make this easier going forward? So Gary, I'll dump that one on you.
So unfortunately, I get to say the good buzzword because they're all going to say it, but artificial intelligence is going to be something that we're all going to be looking for. We need to build in meeting intelligence, voice intelligence. What we need to do is take some of the mundane out of these meetings to make them more intelligent. We need to do what you said. Part of it is I'm sitting here with a camera that's trying to keep me auto-framed as I'm standing back and forth, right? So I don't have to worry about, am I sitting in the center of the screen? Is my headway the same, right? We need to start turning some of this over to either software or hardware to say, that's one less thing I want to worry about. I don't want to be monitoring myself for that. 2, I want meeting intelligence. I want to be able to go to meetings, and I want the meeting to maybe send me bullet points after the meeting. I want to be able to have some of the things that are stressing me during the meeting that I have to do, moving into more automation. I also think what you said is smart gallery. We need to figure out, how do we make events, even like the event you're in, a little bit more hybrid? Because just like our business meetings, we are going to have hybrid sessions, right? And it would be great. There's only 2 of us that are remote today. And we have to admit, it took a little bit to get the 2 of us connected, right? There's very little interaction. Caitlin and I, we can chat each other. We're having a great experience. But you're not having the experience with us. You're having a separate experience. And so I think we all have to stress going forward is, how do we bring those, we talk about hybrid, but is hybrid 2 meetings? Is it the virtual people are having 1 meeting, viewing the in-person meeting? And the in-person meeting, how many times in a meeting, David, we've been in meetings before, do you reach over and whisper to somebody? Those 4 guys on the camera who don't see, or worse comes to worse, you bring, what is it, a flip chart into the room or something like that, right? So I think what we're going to see is, how do we bring in meeting voice intelligence? How do we bring products and services to bear that are going to make this experience be what we tell people it is? That employee and customer experience is going to be, it's going to be equal. It's going to be on parity. It's going to make it so that Caitlin and I can chat each other, but we should be able to chat with you, right? And we should all have that same experience. Sorry, Caitlin, for bringing you into that.
And by the way, we're having a really good experience of this meeting. The production crew here has done a remarkable job. The biggest problem that we had is not everybody had the same invitation, so that's a human problem, not a technology problem. But we did it. So Caitlin, what do you think?
But I mean, it would be great if Caitlin and I could chat with the people in the audience.
Yes, it would be nice if you could look wherever you wanted to look instead of just the
Right.
shot we're giving you.
I mean, right now we're seeing, unfortunately, the back of everybody's heads in the audience.
You get to see me, so that's cool.
There you go, as long as we see you.
What about you? What do you think is the future that we're looking at here in terms of innovation?
Yeah, I'll say just sort of in the near term future, we're talking a little bit about equity of experiences. So one of the things we're working on here in Cisco is something we call people focus, right? Which is making sure that people who are in a big area, like to your point, Gary, like we would see each individual be represented on video, and it would take up the same amount of space as Gary and I do on our own screen, so that you really do feel like, okay, it does feel, at least on the remote side, it feels like everyone sort of is equally participating in that video experience. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing for like I mentioned before, sort of dedicated devices. I think there's a lot of space right now for what's on my desk at home, and what do I use it for? I think yes, there's your laptop and your and you can use your whatever various devices there are, but if you're on video calls and you're on meetings all day long, there's nothing like having a dedicated device to do that. And like we said, one button and join. I'm just connected. I don't have to worry about it. I can do something in the background, and it's always there. And then I think the other thing is, I think we kind of saw, and I'll say we've made good strides in solving this transportation issue. I'm in California. I can see and speak to you guys. We can have a conversation. One of the things we haven't solved, which I think we're going to look at going forward, is time zones. And I don't know about how your time zones are right now, but the way we do our asynchronous communication, whether that's email, chat, maybe video messaging as we're sort of playing with here, we're shipping here with what we call vidcast. I think we're going to see a lot more in that space of how do I manage all these communications when I am at home or in the office, and making sure that I don't lose track of the million ways that we can all talk and chat with each other. So,
Caitlin, we're kind of at a time point right now, so I appreciate that. I'm gonna ask if anybody has any additional questions. You've got my email and my information if you'd like a copy of the deck, if you'd like introductions to any of the panelists, and by all means, for Cisco, for Jabra, for Poly, and for Zoom that are here, just walk over to their booths and ask them. This is a great conversation to keep having because the industry is changing and the opportunity is there, and we really should be taking advantage of it. So, Tim, Jay, Sam, Caitlin, and Gary, thank you very much for joining us here. Thank the tech crew for pulling all of this together. Gary, we'll see you here tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
bye.